Mower County was settled in the early 1850s by the McQuillan family up in Racine Township. Literally, Jacob McQuillan made his stake to his land by taking a coffee mill and nailing it to a tree. My name is Dustin Heckman. I'm the Executive Director of the Mower County Historical Society. Well, in Mower County, there's a lot of towns that are no longer around, scattered throughout the county, and we call these the ghost towns of Mower County. And this is usually a natural, no matter what county you go to, people always want to know about the towns that are no longer there, or they remember them. There's quite a few people that actually remember working in some of these towns when they were still around. So back in the late 1800s, life would have been a lot more simple. Most people, kids only would have went to school till about the 8th grade in their one-room country school and then been back out on the farm helping out. The roads were probably dirt. Good spring rain would have washed out a road pretty well. And taking the horse and buggy everywhere would have been the mode of transportation, or if you're lucky enough to get near somewhere that had a passenger train, there's no electricity at that time. With some of these, there's different instances of why they fell apart or why they didn't survive. Might be a natural disaster, could be a political maneuver. The railroad might have bypassed town or even came through and just didn't have enough competition, or it could have literally been their location in proximity to other towns or other settlements that were popping up across the county. Frankfurt would actually start out as the county seat of Mower County before Austin was the county seat. And they were the one town that, because of political maneuvering, became a ghost town. They were a thriving city, they were getting larger. 1856 is when they were platted and founded. So they were made the county seat, and some people decided, well, we're going to steal the county seat, literally, which was a tin box with all the county documents in it. They rode at midnight to Frankfurt, stole the box, and tracked their way back through the county. There was an election held, which made Austin the county seat, and after that, Frankfurt just died off. School bell that's located in the cemetery at Frankfurt, that was kind of their way of remembering the school and the town of Frankfurt. You hear about it all across American history. You live or die by the railroad. So if the railroad came through your town, you had a chance at survival. If it bypassed your town even by a mile, you probably were dead. So we're in Hamilton, Minnesota. This is a ghost town right on the borders of Mower and Fillmore County. This town was probably one of the bigger ones in Mower County. There were 30 businesses in town, and at its height about 300 to 400 people. This is what the town looks like now. It's an unincorporated community. There's a creek that runs right through the middle of town, and that was kind of where they centered the community on until it was bypassed by the railroad for Racine, and then the town kind of fell apart after that. With Hamilton, the big story was towards the end, when it was in its demise, there was a bunch of horse thieves around, and one day the sheriff had finally gotten sick of it, and he brought himself and some deputies over here, rounded up the town people and said, "We know who has been stealing all the horses, so why don't you just confess now?" In the back of the group were a bunch of prominent businessmen from town, and they turned around and took off running for the woods and were never seen again. So they figured they were the horse thieves. Kind of makes for an interesting end to the town of Hamilton. If you've been around this area for a while, you know exactly where Renova is, or you remember hearing about Renova from somebody. So this town had elevator, post office, the railroad came through town, there was a depot there, and the thing that a lot of people remember is the general store. And this was owned by the Stern family. Lottie Stern was the last general store owner and proprietor, and she kept it going even after the town died off and the railroad stopped coming through Renova, I should say, until 1972, even though nobody else lived in the town. But a lot of people still went there to pick things up in the area. And so at the historical site, as part of the Ghost Town exhibit, we actually have the store counter from the Renova General Store, which a lot of people remember and really like because it actually brings that town to life. They always say this in the real estate world: location, location, location. It's all about location. Because if you can't get to a hub to get the goods you need, or if you're too close to another town that is growing faster than you might not survive. Today we're standing here in Madison. This is a ghost town that's right along Highway 218. The town was built very quickly. There was a hotel, blacksmith shop, general store, post office. The first proprietors were actually attracting people away from Austin, so they built the town a little faster than they probably should have. Lansing is about 3 miles to the south, and Blooming Prairie is about 4 to 5 miles to the north here. So for the railroad, that was just way too close in proximity to be starting and stopping a train. It was a burden for the postmaster because he had to make that trip about every day, by horse and wagon down there, pick up everything, and then come back and have to do the same thing the whole next day. And he chose to discontinue being the postmaster, and he himself moved out of the area. Then you also have Ramsey, which for a long time the railroad was beefing them up, and they were attracting people away from Austin. They thought, well, if we keep going, we're going to grow to be the bigger city. And then the railroad decided, well, sorry, Austin's going to win. You think of what goes into a town. You have to create a plat, so you have to get that all marked out, and you have to have a judge approve that to be an official town. You'd think, yeah, getting so close together, well, I don't want to be that close to this other town, because especially if you see a community like Austin that is rapidly growing, I don't think you'd want to have a town very close by, because you're either going to become a suburb or you're going to get annexed into that town. Rivers are great locations, obviously, for transport, commerce, and everything like that. Mower County has 3 towns, actually, that were built on the Cedar River besides Austin that didn't make it. Interesting enough, they were all taken out by the same event. Today we're standing in Cedar City Cemetery, which is presumably in the area of where the town of Cedar City was until it was wiped off the map due to a flood of the Red Cedar River in August of 1858, along with the towns of Two Rivers and Troy City, which is about 2 miles south of where we're standing. This is about all that's left of the town. It had been around for about 2 years and had a mill business going here with its proprietors and a few other businesses. There was a school about a mile north of here until that flood wiped it all out. We're seeing problems with the U.S. Postal Service now, where you're seeing post offices being reduced or closed altogether, and that's a big part of what towns, keeps them viable and gives them an identity, is their post office. I think that's part of the cyclical part of history. There's always going to be something that's going to come about that's going to bring massive change and eventually either cities have to adapt, or they're going to end up starting to lose population and die off and lose what kept them viable for so long. People are very interested in ghost towns. It seems to be one of those topics that no matter where you go in the country, somebody wants to talk about these old towns or something that's not around anymore. So I think it's kind of the basis for a lot of people wanting to learn a little bit about history as well.